I didn't scream. I didn't throw a plate, or slam the door, or call every aunt and cousin to start a war. I did one thing, and the next morning my mother called me in a panic because someone from the state had left a voicemail at the restaurant. My daughter's name is Lena. That summer she was 12, still a kid, still losing hair ties, still believing that if you worked hard and kept your head down, grown-ups would be fair. She wanted her first real job, not help mom clean the garage work, a schedule, a paycheck, proof she could earn something all by herself. The offer came from my sister, Carol, and my mother, Diane. Carol owned a restaurant downtown Seabright Kitchen, one of those places with exposed brick where the kitchen staff sweated in full view. My mother ran the front like it was her personal stage, greeting regulars with the same bright smile she used at church, the smile that said, "I am the good one here." Lena came bursting into the house one afternoon, cheeks flushed, backpack still on. "Mom," she said, nearly tripping on the rug. "Grandma and Aunt Carol said I can work at the restaurant." I froze with a dish towel in my hands. "Work how?" "Like a job," she said, eyes shining. "They said $13 an hour. End of the month. I can save for the laptop." She'd been talking about that laptop for months. Used is fine, she'd told me. She didn't need fancy. She just wanted to learn digital art and maybe upload her drawings like the older kids did. A 12-year-old saving for something that mattered felt good, responsible, hopeful. I hesitated because I knew my family. I knew the way Carol collected help, the way some people collected coupons. I knew my mother's favorite phrase, "We're family, we don't keep score." In our house growing up, that sentence meant one thing: somebody was about to be used, and it was never Carol. But I still couldn't picture them cheating a child. Not openly. Not with laughter. That was my first mistake. Lena started the next day. 5 days a week. Texts from my mother. "Come in at 3. Can you stay until close? We're short. My sister's number popped up too. We need you early Saturday." "Don't be late." Lena came home smelling like fry oil and sanitizer, hands rough from wiping tables, but she was proud. She told me about balancing trays, about an older server showing her how to fold napkins, about getting a free soda after closing. A month passed. The end of the month arrived. That evening I came home earlier than usual. I expected the normal soundtrack of a 12-year-old, existing music too loud, a video playing, snack wrappers crinkling. Instead, I walked into silence so thick it made my skin prickle. Lena was on the couch facing the wall. No phone in sight. No TV. Her shoulders were pulled tight and her eyes looked swollen. Not dramatic, just used up. I set my keys down slowly. "Hey, honey," I said, gentle. "What's going on?" She blinked like she'd forgotten how to speak. "Nothing," she said, too fast, too flat. I didn't push. I sat beside her, close enough to be there, but not so close she felt trapped. She tried to hold it in. Her jaw tightened, her breath thinned. Then her face crumpled and the words spilled out like they'd been stuck behind a dam. "They said they're not going to pay me." The sentence hit wrong. Not because I didn't understand the words, but because my brain refused to accept they could be arranged like that by people who called themselves family. "Not pay you?" I repeated carefully. "What do you mean, not pay you?" Lena stared at her hands. "Grandma laughed," she whispered. "She said I'm family, so I was just helping." My chest went cold. "And Aunt Carol was there?" Lena added. She said I was stupid for thinking I'd get money. 12 years old. Being laughed at by adults, by her grandmother. "She said my work wasn't even good," Lena continued, voice shaking. "She said if they were paying, they wouldn't have hired me." Rage rose in my throat. Lena glanced at me, scared. "Mom, don't yell," she begged. "If you yell, they'll say I'm dramatic. They'll say I'm too sensitive." I swallowed the anger down because my daughter needed steady, not a storm. "I'm not going to yell," I promised, even though my whole body wanted to become a siren. "I just need to hear it from Grandma." I picked up my phone and called my mother. It rang twice. "Hello?" Diane answered, cheerful, like she hadn't just crushed a child's trust. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice level. Lena says you told her you won't pay her. A tiny pause, almost amused. Oh, she said. She told you? So it's true, I said. Yes, she replied, as if discussing the weather. We're not paying her. But you promised? I said, voice tightening. You told her 13 an hour. My mother made a sound between a scoff and a laugh. There was no contract, she said. She's family, she was helping. She was working, I said. Full shifts for weeks. She got experience, Diane replied. She should be grateful. And honestly, she added with casual cruelty, her work wasn't even good. If we were paying for that, we wouldn't have hired her. Lena shifted beside me like the words were physically pushing her down. That did something to me. It didn't make me louder. It made me still. I ended the call. I pulled Lena into my arms and held her while she shook and cried. The kind of crying you can't stop because your body has to leak out the shock. When she finally quieted, she whispered, "Did I do something wrong?" "No," I said, firm. "You did your job. They did something wrong." I didn't shout. I didn't call them back. I didn't pace like a storm. But inside me, something clicked into place. That night, after Lena finally fell asleep, I opened my laptop and searched for one specific website, the State Labor Department wage claim portal. Because if my mother wanted to play the no contract game, I was about to show her what proof looks like. And I had a feeling she was going to regret teaching my daughter that adults could steal without consequences. I didn't post a rant. I didn't drive to Seabright Kitchen to make a scene in front of customers. I didn't call a lawyer to scare anyone. I chose paperwork, because paperwork doesn't care who your mother is. Around midnight, Lena padded into the kitchen in socks, rubbing her eyes. She held her phone out like it was fragile. "I want to show you," she whispered. "So it's real. So they can't say I'm lying." She scrolled through message after message. Shift reminders from my mother. "Be there at 3. Stay late if we need you." Texts from Carol. "You're on bathrooms tonight. We're slammed. Hurry." It wasn't vague. It wasn't help out when you can. It was scheduling. Then Lena stopped, finger hovering over one message like it hurt to touch. There it was. $13 HR. Pay at the end of the month. Below it, a trail of delays. Later. Next week. We'll talk. Stop asking. "How many hours do you think you worked?" I asked. Lena swallowed. "A lot," she said. "Almost every day." We sat together and counted. Their own texts made it easy. 5 days a week, most shifts 6 to 8 hours, plus the extra "can you stay" requests. It wasn't pocket money. It was wages. And it was Lena's time she would never get back. "Is it okay if I screenshot everything?" I asked gently. Lena nodded hard. "Yes, please." I hugged her, guided her back to bed, and waited until her breathing finally deepened. Then I returned to the kitchen and opened the state wage claim portal. It asked for the worker's name. I typed, Lena Harper, age 12. Employer, Seabright Kitchen. Owner, manager, Carol Harper, Diane Harper. Address, phone number, whatever the form demanded. The box labeled "Describe what happened" stared at me like it wanted drama. I gave it facts. Minor worked scheduled shifts for 4 weeks. Employer promised $13 hour. Payment delayed repeatedly. Employer refused to pay and stated there was no written contract. Then attachments. I uploaded the screenshots, pay promise, schedule texts, the stay late messages, just the clearest ones. Proof lined up like they'd prepared it for court. At the end was a button, submit. I didn't pray. I didn't hesitate. I clicked. A confirmation number appeared with a timestamp, neat and official. I took a screenshot and saved it to 3 places like a paranoid person, because experience had taught me that when my family got nervous, they got slippery. I sent one text to my mother, short and calm. I filed a wage claim for Lena's unpaid work. You'll be contacted by the state. Then I went to bed. I slept just enough to be jolted awake by my phone ringing like it had a job. My mother's name lit up the screen. I answered. Her voice had changed overnight, less smug, more urgent. Tessa, she said, using my full name like it might control me. Did you file that claim? Yes, I said. A beat of stunned silence. Then her breath came out too hard. Why would you do that? She snapped. You need to withdraw it. Right now. She needs to be paid, I replied. My mother made a small, offended sound, like I'd suggested something outrageous. This is family, she said. You don't do this to family. I let that hang for half a second. Family shouldn't do this to Lena, I said. Her tone warmed, the way it does when she's about to offer a reasonable solution that benefits her. Let's handle it privately, she coaxed. We'll talk. We'll sort it out. You don't need outsiders. You mean I don't need witnesses? I said calmly. Tessa, she warned. No, I said. Pay her. The line went quiet. Not peaceful quiet, planning quiet. Before the call ended, I heard Lena's bedroom door creak open down the hall. She must have been listening. I covered the speaker and mouthed, Go back to bed. She nodded, eyes wide, like she'd just seen a monster step out of a story and into our house. That look reminded me why I wasn't negotiating. Then she hung up. The next afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there they were, my mother and Carol, standing like they'd come to collect something. My mother wore her tight, polite smile. Carol had her arms crossed like a bouncer. We need to talk, my mother said, stepping forward as if my porch belonged to her. We already did, I said. You told a 12-year-old you'd pay her nothing. Carol let out a sharp laugh. You actually filed. I can't believe you. My mother's eyes flicked past me, checking the street. Lower your voice, she murmured. People don't need to hear this. Lena heard it, I said. The smile slipped. My mother went straight to guilt. How could you file against your own family? She demanded. Carol rolled her eyes. This is embarrassing. It's wages, I said. For work you scheduled. My mother snapped. She was helping. She was working, I corrected. Carol leaned in, lips curling. She begged for experience. She should be grateful. She was promised pay, I said. My mother waved a hand like I was being childish. Don't be dramatic. When guilt didn't land, they switched tactics. If you post anything, my mother said sharply, we'll sue you for defamation. Carol's eyes brightened. We'll make your life miserable. I nodded once. Noted. Then bargaining. We'll give her something, my mother said quickly. Not the full amount, but something. Just withdraw the complaint today, Carol added, impatient, and we'll transfer it. I looked at them, my mother and my sister, negotiating my child's dignity like it was a discount code. No, I said. My mother blinked. No? The complaint stays, I said. The proof stays. Carol's face tightened. You're going to ruin us. You did this, I said. They stood there another second, waiting for me to fold. I didn't. They left stiff with rage, and as their car disappeared, my phone buzzed with a new notification my mother had tagged me in something online. I didn't open it yet, but my stomach already knew. I opened my mother's tag with coffee still in my hand, and the heat climbed my neck so fast I almost dropped the mug. She'd posted a bright, polished photo of Seabright Kitchen fresh flowers, smiling staff, the kind of lighting that makes everything look wholesome. The caption was long enough to be a sermon. She didn't mention promised wages. She didn't mention laughing at a child. She wrote it like she was the victim of a cruel, greedy daughter who hated family values. Then came the sentence she wanted everyone to repeat. Some people will demand over $2,000 from their own family and call it justice. Demand. Not earn. Not work. Not pay owed. Demand. I scrolled through the comments and felt sick. Kids today are entitled. She should be grateful for experience. Your daughter is teaching her kid to be a leech. A woman from my mother's church wrote, If my kid acted like that, I'd teach her a lesson. Aim Mels. Like we were voting on how to punish a 12-year-old for expecting honesty. The footsteps behind me were small and cautious. Lena stood in the doorway in her socks, phone in hand. She wasn't angry. She looked scared. Mom, she said quietly, did I mess up? I set my phone down like it was something sharp. No, I said immediately. Her eyes flicked between my face and her screen. Grandma says I begged for experience, she whispered. People are calling me names. I pulled out the chair beside me. Come here. She sat, shoulders tight, like she was bracing for punishment. I leaned in so she couldn't miss my face. You worked, I said. You were promised pay. Asking for what you earned is not wrong. But what if… No, I said, sharper than I meant, then softened. No, when people do something wrong, they often try to make you feel wrong for noticing. Lena blinked fast. So what do we do? I wanted to write a speech. I wanted to list every time my mother had used guilt to control me, every time Carol had taken and called it love. But public fights don't reward nuance. They reward proof. So I wrote what would survive daylight. A timeline. No adjectives. No insults. Lena was offered $13 HR to work scheduled shifts at Seabright Kitchen. She worked for 4 weeks. When she asked about pay, she was told she would receive $0 because she is family. Attached, the pay message, a scheduling message, and the wage claim confirmation. Then one line, Lena is 12. I posted 2 screenshots and the confirmation number. Then I flipped my phone face down and made breakfast like a woman who hadn't just declared war at the kitchen table. For a few hours, nothing happened. Then the private messages started. Not the loud comment section people, the quiet ones. Hey, I don't want drama, but that's messed up. I'm sorry they're doing this to Lena. I worked there once. Your mom is scary. Around noon, a message came in from a name I didn't recognize. Hannah. I used to work at Seabright. Can we talk somewhere? Not online. The wording felt careful, like she didn't trust the internet to keep her safe. I replied, yes. Where? We met 2 days later at a cafe across town, busy enough that no one could eavesdrop without looking obvious. Hannah arrived like she was late to something important. Quick steps, tense shoulders, eyes scanning. She sat down and didn't touch her drink. Thank you for meeting me, she said. Of course, I replied. Are you okay? She gave a humorless laugh. Not really. Hannah glanced at her hands. I saw what your mom posted. And I saw what people wrote about your kid. Her jaw tightened. It made me sick. I waited. She leaned forward and spoke softly, like she was placing something heavy on the table. You're not the first. My stomach flipped. What do you mean? Hours get shaved, she said, voice quick now. People get told to stay late and then it's not on the check. Tips disappear. Anyone who complains gets told they're ungrateful. Your mom runs that place like it's a kingdom. I felt my mouth go dry. And when I saw how they treated Lena, Hannah swallowed. It wasn't just not paying her. They used her for the dirtiest jobs. Trash, bathrooms, sticky floors during rush. And if she looked tired, Carol would laugh and say, welcome to the real world. A hot, protective anger rose in my chest. Hannah kept her voice low. A group of us current and former staff were filing together. A joint complaint. We've been collecting proof, but Lena is a minor. She looked me straight in the eye. If you're willing, we want her experience included, with you as her guardian. It changes the whole case. The cafe felt too bright. You're saying it's bigger than one paycheck, I said. Hannah nodded. Yes, and they're already trying to scare people quiet. They're calling it family and loyalty to cover up theft. I thought of Lena's face when she asked if she'd messed up. I thought of my mother's laugh on the phone. I thought of every time I'd been told to be the bigger person, which in my family meant be smaller. I exhaled. Okay, I said. Tell me what you need. Hannah's shoulders dropped, relief cracking through her posture. Thank you, she whispered. As we stood to leave, Hannah hesitated. One more thing, she said. Your mom has been asking around for Lena's schedule, like where she goes after work, where she's alone. My blood turned cold. Why? I asked. Hannah's voice was barely above a whisper. Because when they can't win with paperwork, they win by cornering the kid. I drove home with my hands tight on the wheel, suddenly aware that my mother and my sister weren't just angry, they were strategizing. And I realized the next move wouldn't be on Facebook. It would be in person. For a week, life looked normal from the outside. Lunches packed, laundry folded. Lena did summer art camp and tried to pretend the internet hadn't called her greedy. I answered emails and kept my phone on loud, waiting for the next strike. It came on a Tuesday, at the one place I couldn't control. I walked into Lena's dance studio to pick her up and saw my mother and Carol standing by the front desk like they belonged there. They were too close to Lena, close enough that Lena's shoulders were up around her ears, her backpack clutched to her chest like armor. My stomach dropped. My mother turned first, face glowing with that righteous shine she wears when she thinks she's delivering justice. "There you are," she said, like I'd kept her waiting. Carol crossed her arms. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Lena's eyes snapped to me, wide and pleading. She looked like she'd been holding her breath until I arrived. My mother didn't speak to me first. She spoke to Lena, voice soft and sweet in the way that makes your skin crawl. "This didn't have to happen," she told her. "We're family. You can fix this." Carol cut in sharper. "You dragged strangers into our business. You dragged the whole restaurant into it." My mother nodded, still looking at my child. "You don't do this to family," she said calmly, like a verdict. Lena's lip trembled. She looked like she was deciding whether to apologize for existing. I stepped forward and put myself between them and my daughter. "Stop," I said. My mother blinked, offended. "We're talking." "No," I said, taking Lena's hand. "You're cornering her." Carol scoffed. "Oh, please. We're just explaining consequences." "Consequences?" I repeated, voice low. "Like being paid for work?" My mother's smile tightened. "We offered her a chance to learn," she said, "and you turned it into an attack." I squeezed Lena's hand. "You don't get access to her," I said. "Not like this. Not anymore." For the first time, my mother's eyes darted around the room, as if she realized there were other parents nearby, other adults who might hear. Her voice dropped. "Tessa," she said, smaller, urgent, "you have to withdraw the claim." "No," I said. Carol's face flushed. "You're enjoying this." I stared at her. "I'm protecting my kid." Then my mother said the thing she believed would crack me open. "We put the house up," she whispered, "as collateral. For the restaurant." The air in the studio felt thinner. "If this goes through," she continued, eyes shiny, "if they investigate, we lose everything." Lena's fingers tightened around mine. My daughter, 12 years old, was being handed an adult-sized guilt like a weight. I lifted our joined hands slightly, a silent message. "I'm here. You chose that," I said to my mother, keeping my voice calm for Lena. She didn't. My mother's face hardened. "So you'll just let us lose our home? Over this?" "Over wages you stole from a child," I said. "Yes, I will let consequences happen." Carol opened her mouth, then closed it, because there's no clean argument against paying people. I turned to Lena. "Come on," I said, and we walked out. In the car, Lena stared straight ahead, blinking fast. "Are they going to hate me?" she whispered. I swallowed. "If they choose hate over accountability, that's on them," I said. "Not you." That night I blocked their numbers. Not as revenge, as protection. No calls, no surprise visits, no access to Lena. The wage claim moved the way real consequences move: slow, official, unavoidable. We received letters, case numbers, a hearing date, instructions on what to bring. My mother tried to route messages through relatives. "She's devastated. She's your mother. She'll pay if you just drop it." I didn't respond. On the day of the hearing, the building was plain and fluorescent. No one cared about family titles. No one cared that my mother volunteered at church or that Carol called the restaurant her dream. They cared about hours, texts, and whether a minor was promised wages. My mother arrived dressed like she was going to court on television, perfect hair, sharp blazer, confidence like armor. Carol carried a folder stuffed with papers that looked freshly printed. Lena sat beside me in a simple sweater, small hand tucked into mine under the table. Her knee bounced with nervous energy. The investigator asked questions without warmth, without judgment. Did the business promise an hourly wage? Carol tried to smile. It was informal. The investigator turned the monitor so everyone could see the message. $13 her. Pay end of month. Informal looked exactly like a promise. Did the minor work scheduled shifts? My mother's mouth tightened. Yes. Did you pay the wages owed? Silence. Then the investigator asked for the schedule records. My mother admitted the texts were hers. Carol admitted the hours were real. They tried to frame it as helping, but the screenshots didn't care about their story. Hannah testified next, along with 2 other staff members. They didn't shout. They didn't exaggerate. They described shaved hours, missing tips, and being told to be grateful. I watched my mother's confidence drain in small, almost invisible cracks. At the end, the investigator said, "We'll issue a written decision." Outside, Lena exhaled like she'd been underwater. "Did I do something bad?" she asked again, softer than before. "No," I said. "You told the truth." But when we got home, there was a letter taped to my front door. No stamp, no return address, just 4 words written in thick black marker. "You will regret this." And my phone buzzed with a voicemail from an unknown number, my mother's voice, trembling with rage, saying, "You have no idea what you've done." The decision hadn't even arrived yet, and I realized they were about to make the waiting part ugly. I checked every window that night. I changed the garage code. I told Lena, gently, that if Grandma or Aunt Carol showed up anywhere, school, camp, dance, she should walk straight to an adult and call me. Her eyes widened, but she nodded. The decision came 3 weeks later, in an envelope with state letterhead that looked too plain for how much power it carried. I opened it at the kitchen counter while Lena hovered behind me, pretending she wasn't watching. My hands didn't shake. I'd already done the shaking in the first week. Now I felt something quieter, certainty. The letter was short, written in the boring language of consequences. Seabright Kitchen owed Lena unpaid wages for documented hours worked at the promised rate of $13 hour. The business also owed penalties for late payment and record issues. No mention of family. No mention of experience. No room for my mother's stories. Lena leaned closer. "So, they have to?" she whispered. "Yes," I said. "They have to." My mother called that night from a blocked number. I didn't answer. Carol texted from a different phone. "This is what you wanted, right? You're destroying us." I stared at the message and felt nothing but tired. They were still trying to make their choices my responsibility. Payment didn't arrive instantly. They stalled, because stalling is what people do when they're used to winning by exhausting you. But the state had deadlines now, and deadlines don't negotiate. 10 days later, Lena's phone pinged. A deposit notification. She sat down at the table and stared at the screen like it might vanish if she blinked. "Is that mine?" she asked, voice small. "Every cent," I said, "because you earned it." For a second, she didn't move. Then she took a slow breath, as if her body was letting go of months of tension all at once. She didn't jump up. She didn't scream. She just opened her savings app and moved the money into a folder labeled Art Laptop. Quiet, precise transfers. Like she was building a wall out of numbers, something solid that couldn't be laughed away. 2 days later, Hannah messaged me. "They're asking for records from the restaurant. A lot. Your mom is freaking out." Then another message. "More staff are joining. People finally feel safe." I didn't celebrate. I just listened as the world began to correct itself. Over the next months, Seabright Kitchen started unraveling the way a cheap sweater unravels one thread, then another, then suddenly there's nothing left to hold. Employees quit in clusters. Some gave notice. Some just didn't show up again. People talk in a small town. They talk faster when a business has a reputation for forgetting paychecks. Customers stopped coming. Not all at once, but enough that the dining room looked emptier each week. Carol posted frantic specials online. My mother started showing up in comment sections with her church smile, insisting everything was fine, insisting enemies were trying to hurt a family business. Relatives who hadn't called me in years suddenly wanted to mediate. Translation: make me stop being inconvenient. They said things like, "She's still your mother, and you'll regret this when she's gone. And can't you be the bigger person?" I wanted to laugh at how predictable it was. In my family, bigger person always meant smaller boundaries. Lena didn't ask about the restaurant for a while. She focused on art camp, dance class, and her new laptop used, scratched, perfect. The first night we set it up, she opened a drawing program and stared at the blank canvas like it was permission. "What if I'm not good?" she asked. "Then you practice," I said. "And you never let anyone convince you your effort is free." A few weeks later, she came home from a friend's house, quieter than usual. At dinner, she pushed peas around her plate, then finally said, "Someone's mom said you sued Grandma and that's why they might lose their house." Endo. There it was, the story my mother wanted to plant everywhere, that a child asking for wages was the villain. Lena looked up at me. Did we go too far? My chest tightened, not with anger but with sadness that my daughter still carried the weight of adult manipulation. "We didn't sue," I said gently. "We filed a wage claim for money you earned. That's not revenge. That's reality." "But they might lose everything," she whispered. I nodded. "They made choices," I said. "They chose to promise pay. They chose not to pay. They chose to borrow against their house for the restaurant. You did not choose any of that." Lena's eyes filled, but she didn't cry like she had that first night. She just blinked, absorbing. "So telling the truth didn't hurt them," she said slowly. "It just showed what they did." "Yes," I said. "Telling the truth turned the lights on." About a year after the wage claim, I heard through a cousin that my parents had sold their house. Not upgraded, sold. They'd tied it to the restaurant as collateral and kept borrowing to save the dream. When the restaurant failed, the debt didn't disappear. It followed them, like consequences do. My mother never apologized. Neither did Carol. They didn't reach out to Lena to ask how she was. They didn't send a message saying, "We were wrong." They only sent whispers through other people how hurt they were, how unfair I was, how they were the real victims. And then, slowly, the whispers stopped. No contact became our normal, and the absence, surprisingly, felt like peace. One night, months later, I walked past Lena's room and paused in the doorway. She was hunched over her laptop, stylus in hand, drawing a city skyline in neon colors. Her face was calm, focused, safe. That's when I understood the real ending of this story. Cutting them off didn't break our family. It protected it. Because Lena learned, at 12, what it took me decades to learn. People will call you greedy when you ask for what was promised. They will call you dramatic when you refuse to be exploited. They will call you cruel when consequences finally arrive. Let them. My job is not to keep grown adults comfortable. My job is to make sure my daughter grows up knowing her time and her dignity are not free. So tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more real stories where the truth finally wins.